Hello and welcome to Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing The Beast, directed by Bertrand Bonello. So I knew very little about this film before going to see it, and in some ways that is the best way to approach it. If you haven't seen it but you plan to, do consider switching this review off and coming back once you've seen it. I am going to give away some things about the film, although I won't give away the biggest spoilers. On the other hand, it's not really possible to give spoilers for this film. If you're only going to watch it once, and it is 2.5 hours, it is quite hard work. So having something of an outline of what is going on might actually help enjoy the film. The description of the film on the Curzon website says, set partly in a near future in which artificial intelligence is in control of everyone's lives and human emotions are perceived as a threat. Now this is literally a description of the film. However, it gets nowhere near to describing what the experience of this film is. It's about two characters, Gabrielle and Louis, and we see them across several time periods, 1910, 2014 and 2044. At times I found it really frustrating and confusing. I almost wasn't sure what was happening, and I felt the film was almost losing me. When it jumps between the three time periods, it's a bit confusing, and I just had to go with it, and somehow I managed to stay with it. It's difficult to describe what this film is. There are many elements of a kind of classic romance movie, but it also has elements of horror, and at times you would definitely call it experimental cinema. It's exciting and edgy. It feels like there's a big Lynch influence here, even in the final scene with a red velvet curtain. In terms of its time span and epic nature, it somewhat reminded me of Cloud Atlas and The Red Violin, although it's very different than those films, much less Hollywood, much more experimental art house movie making. At times the film is glitchy and it has a number of meta moments. There's no sense of what is real, of what can be trusted. We get multiple versions of scenes that play out in different ways. It's a film that feels very intense. It's real art house cinema, I would say, and it's definitely not for everyone. It has a real depth and a heft in the script writing, in the acting, in the cinematography. At times it almost felt like there's too much. It felt like a heavy load, like a really intellectual book that you know is saying something really interesting, but you can't quite understand it. I felt like I was being kind of loaded up with something that was tantalizingly close to being comprehensible, but impossible to solve. At the same time, about halfway through, I realized that despite these frustrations, the film was carrying me at the same time. I definitely had a feeling that the film was taking me somewhere. The acting is superb. Léa Seydoux and George Mackay are incredible, and they're definitely a big part of the reason why the film works. I wasn't sure about George at first. The film is in both English and French, and when he speaks French, and even in the final act where he has an American accent, it did feel like something jarred slightly. But in the end, this completely disappeared. Both of the main characters are completely convincing, and their chemistry was fantastic. And that chemistry carries through, even though the film shifts around a lot, both in terms of time period and tone. The music is great. We've got music of the different eras, and there's kind of classic movie romance music. It's all over the place in tone, but it really works. Bonello wrote the original music for this film, and I really loved it. I've been listening to the score afterwards. Quite an achievement, I thought. The nightclub scenes with the music of different eras are also just fantastic. So what is this film about? It's so hard to describe. It's about love. It's about artificial intelligence. It's about the choice between kind of sterile efficiency and messy emotions. Ultimately, I think it's about how fear holds us back from being true to ourselves, and how through AI this is kind of leading to the sterilization of mankind. There are so many meaningful images and symbols in the film, especially the pigeon and the dolls, and I feel like I do almost understand what it all means, but I definitely can't put it into words. Ultimately, it is a love story. It's about fear of intimacy. And ultimately, I think the beast is risk, it's repressed love, where there's chemistry, connection. It's about fear of love and about love being only feared if you don't want to feel emotions, if you don't want to take risks. By the end, I was left speechless. I came out of the film and just sat in the lobby while I composed myself. And then I watched the credits, which you can only see if you scan a QR code that appears on the screen at the end of the film. Make sure you don't miss the bonus scene in the credits. It all kind of left me in bits in a really, really good way. I was planning to see another film after I'd seen Beast, but I just couldn't do it. I was so satiated by this film. So I went to see Beast a second time. If you'd have told me halfway through the first viewing that I would immediately go and see it again afterwards, I wouldn't have believed it. The second viewing was fantastic. I do think that this is one of those films that gets richer as you watch it more. I loved every minute of it. And I definitely would love to have a third viewing if I can find the time. This is truly an extraordinary work. It all fits together into something by the end, but it is somewhat elusive in a kind of really satisfying way. I couldn't recommend this film more highly. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.